Hello everyone, I'm your host BlackTuna. Welcome back in another video. Today I just want to talk to you a little bit about my current favorite MMORPG. Now, I already made a video about this game a while ago, I think a few months back. And of course I'm talking about Lost Ark. I jumped back into the game just recently, maybe a little bit less than a month ago, because again, another delay from Amazon on the delivery, on the release of Lost Ark for the Western public just threw me off and I really couldn't stand it anymore, so I paid again the VPN, jumped on Lost Ark Russian server, and I have been having a blast on the game. Now just FYI, I'm streaming the game very often on Twitch, so if you want to hop by and check out the game is, feel free to follow the channel. But yeah, now that I have a couple of classes at level 50, one approaching also level 51, and after seeing a lot of the bosses, dungeons and endgame content that the game has to offer, I can say with confidence that right now in 2021, Lost Ark is my favorite MMORPG, my MMORPG of choice. Now, again, the term MMORPG is used a little bit loosely. Yes, there is an open world, there are many people involved in the open world, but technically the content that the game offers is not really massive per se. There's no 100 versus 100 battles or stuff like that. It's more on a smaller scale, still multiplayer online with many people, just not that many people, right? And now there are three things that are contributing a lot to the enjoyment of the game. First and foremost has to be the combat system. Now, if you've seen some of the videos of Lost Ark, you would know that this is really high-octane action gameplay. It's not the fastest out there. I feel like Path of Exile still has a little bit of extra speed compared to Lost Ark. But again, it's two different really types of game. Lost Ark doesn't really rely on that type of looting mechanic, right? But in terms of speed of the combat, I guess you get a general idea of where this game stands. It's really fast-paced, like definitely way more than any other classic MMORPG you're probably used to. And the isometric camera view really helps in this department because again, having your character surrounded by tons of enemies, you know, you have to quickly make an escape or quickly decide which abilities to use to get out of danger, and the fact that you can also customize your skills to a limited extent for sure, but you can customize each and single ability that you have to fit your personal needs so that two characters with the same class will likely not have the same build, the same skill set. That also adds to the excitement, especially when you're playing PvP, because let's say you're playing PvP against an Arcanist. Well, sure, you may be familiar with the class, but you will never know what this guy actually powered up and how he powered up his skills until you actually fight him. So there's a very limited preparation that you can do to face certain opponents, right? And there's a very cool thing that I didn't know about and I just discovered now that I reached level 50 with my Soul Fighter, which is basically ultimate abilities. I mean, of course I knew there were ultimate abilities, I already had them on my previous characters before, but there are other ultimate abilities that you have to unlock through a certain quest, right? So my ultimate ability, the default one, is the Genki Dama sphere, the one from Dragon Ball Z. Like really, it's that one, I'm not joking with you. But after that I discovered that there is this awakening quest that you can take on, and this quest will pretty much get you all around the world, all around the map of Lost Ark. Not every single location, just it's gonna move you around the map a lot. There's dungeons to complete, small challenges, story content, and so on and so forth. And it actually takes a while. It took me a couple of days to actually get the whole quest sorted out. Of course, I don't play 8 hours per day, but it took me a couple of days to finish this quest. And the reward for this incredible quest line, this incredible journey, is a new ultimate ability. In my case, the Father-Son Kamehameha from Dragon Ball Z. And I'm not messing with you, that's the real deal, I'm not joking. So I find it very interesting that to actually get the last piece of your arsenal, you're gonna have to go through this immense journey. It's gonna bring you literally everywhere across the globe. And now immediately, the quest is not hard per se, it's not impossible or anything like that, but it's cool that you actually have to go through this journey, a literal journey with your ship, your crew, and sail from one place to another, and do dungeons, talk to NPCs and so on, and in the end you get this incredible power-up, this new ability that it's purely optional, you don't have to do this. It's an optional quest. And this still ties in the combat system because again, you can have only one ultimate ability at one time. But again, the fact that they are both so spectacular to look at and the fact that one of them is tied to this story content adds that much more depth to the game. The second element that actually contributes to the overall enjoyment of this game for me is the overall aesthetic and the environments of the game. Now this game is gorgeous. It runs really well even at 4K on my system at 60 FPS while I'm not streaming. When I'm streaming it averages 60 I guess, but you know, there's some frame drops here and there, so I tend to play in 1080p when I'm streaming. So it runs really well again. It's on Unreal Engine 3, it looks incredible. But I mean, the overall aesthetic, the design of the world itself, of the dungeons, of the enemies, of the bosses, the beauty of the places, of the maps you are exploring with your character. It's really something I haven't seen in a long time. Now, I played tons of MMORPGs, right? Even in World of Warcraft, I played it for a little bit, right? I played Final Fantasy XIV, and Final Fantasy XIV, more than others, has some very cool environments. Black Desert, very rich environments, for example, but some of them feel a little bit anonymous, like they tend to reuse assets a lot, right? But again, yeah, Final Fantasy XIV, a great example of very well-crafted dungeons and maps. I really love the design of the game. And again, I feel like Lost Ark is basically on the same level with the Black Desert and Final Fantasy. I think both those games have great environmental design and details, and Lost Ark is pretty much on par. Lost Ark does a really great job making you feel like the map that you're exploring is actually full of items. It's a really lived place by whatever creatures, people living there. So you can see the signs of encampments, of bandits that are scattered around. You can see some local fauna, plants that animals eat. So every environment that you're visiting, and by the way, there's tons of different environments to visit, first of all, they feel incredibly unique. Yeah, there are some similar biomes per se, but of course, when you enter into different forests, that's kind of what you expect, right? Although Lost Ark is also able to subvert your expectations with certain unbelievably beautiful landscapes, but that's not the point. Every time you explore an environment, a new environment, you will see that it's actually very well crafted. They just don't toss items around, like assets around, to make it feel full and complete. It actually makes sense the way the map is structured, the way encampments of bandits are scattered, the way you find details and maybe footprints of fauna, animals that passed by just recently, horses that are dead because of a conflict, destroyed structures and whatnot. So it really helps you understand what was going on in the area before you actually reached the place, right? Now, if there is a downside to all of this, is the enemy placement, because enemy placement is not as well crafted and thought out as all the rest, as the environmental detail. They are kind of random the way they are placed. Yes, there is a section where there are bandits, there is a section where there are bears, whatever, just an example. There's no real logic per se to what's going on. It's just, you know, this area is dedicated to bandits, this one dedicated to animals, this one to demons, right? It's not bad, it doesn't break the immersion, but you know, just a small thing. And I feel like the pinnacle of environmental design and care, attention to detail happens in dungeons. Dungeons are something absurd. First of all, this game has some of the best dungeon designs I've ever seen in a game. We will talk about that a little bit later. But in terms of eye candy, in terms of visuals, they are impressive. Like, they really give you a sense of, like, some of them really give you a sense of scale, and the fact that you're playing the game from an isometric point of view just emphasizes even more how small you are compared to certain environments. And the fact that these dungeons are epic as fuck just helps that feeling that you're going into a dungeon to fight something epic, to do something epic. So let's say if you're going to fight the legendary dragon, whatever, just invented name right here, you wouldn't fight him in a plain basic arena, right? You want to fight him in his nest, probably with a lot of altitude, a lot of platforming to do, a lot of movement, verticality involved, lava. You know, you want to have the environment resonating with what you're doing, right? And Lost Ark does just that. Every dungeon that you fight, every dungeon you go through, every hunt, every mission, the game does such a great job at pulling you in, not only with the enemies and the action, but also with the environment, with the ambience, the atmosphere, the music. They do a very good job at doing that. Like, this game feels like a very well polished AAA single player game. And you don't always get this out of MMORPGs, you have to understand. And last but not least, we have the third key feature that makes me want to go and play this game right now as I'm recording this video. It's, again, the content itself. Content spanning from the open world exploration, collectibles, sailing, gathering resources, dungeons, hunts, towers, 1v1 PvP, 3v3 PvP, housing as well as of lately. This game does it all. And now usually I'm not a fan of games or MMOs in this case that branch off in every possible way, because usually they tend to get lost, right? They add features, they add stuff that people ask, but then they start neglecting other aspects of the game. So usually I'm not a fan of that, but considering that the base game is already very, very solid, the fact that they have all these extra features and gameplay mechanics that you can go through at your leisure just adds up to the fun. And now the only part I can really not talk about, because I haven't delved into it just yet, is housing. I've seen how housing is. I mean, I have entered my island. I tried to decorate it a little bit, but I didn't really give it too much attention just yet. All the rest, again, dungeons, PvP, hunts, towers, I did all of that so far, and all of this content is super engaging. There's tons of bosses to face, bosses to grind to get better gear. There's tons of dungeons to explore, the towers with 50 floors each, and you get increasingly better rewards as you go on. There's so much stuff to do. Sailing, you can go literally anywhere in the sea with your own ship that you can upgrade. You can choose your crew, you can do activities in the sea. There are isles that spawn at only specific hours of the day and that you can visit only in those specific hours. Gathering of resources that also ties in with housing, right? Really, when you join Lost Ark, when you press the play button and you enter the game, there's not a minute where you can say, oh, I have nothing to do. There's always something to do in the game. Now, I prevalently move through the story and do dungeons and some PvP, but again, that's just because gathering resources and housing is really not my cup of cake. But again, there's plenty for each type of player, right? And now, I personally always said it, but I will repeat this right now as a statement. Lost Ark has some of the best dungeon designs and boss designs in terms of aesthetic and gameplay that I've ever seen in a game, period. I'm not talking about MMORPGs, I'm not only talking about action RPGs, I'm talking about in general, in the history of games. I'm not saying they are completely original ideas, because some of them are clearly recycled from other games, revisited, upgraded, and then implemented in Lost Ark, but the end result is what I'm looking at. And some of the bosses, now I cannot really give you the names of the bosses because I'm playing the Russian server with a translation that doesn't really apply, right? It's not really a 100% correct translation, but when you play the game, and if you do play the game, which I recommend you do, and you start playing and doing those bosses, those boss hunts, you will see how many cool mechanics this game has. It's so many. And now some of them are a bit hardcore, so to defeat some of the bosses you really need a team with serious coordination, otherwise you're gonna be screwed. But yeah, apart from that, all the rest is like fun, skill, speed. It's a skill check. Basically, boss fights are a real skill check more than a DPS check for sure. Now, I don't think I missed on anything. This is pretty much everything I wanted to talk to you about today. I really recommend you guys check Lost Ark. If not now, if you cannot afford the VPN now, because again, the game is free to play. If you cannot afford the VPN now to play on the Russian servers, sure, wait until the Amazon game launches. Now, my hopes for the Amazon version of the game are getting lower by the day. You know, I'm not trying to throw shade at the game, but they did mention that they are localizing the in-game music. The in-game music that has no lyrics. So what the fuck are they localizing about it? I have no idea. But yeah, for sure I will still play the Amazon version once it launches, because again, I want to play with my friends, I want to play with a proper translation and understand the story, because again, the story seems to slap a lot, seems to be solid, but I cannot really tell from the Russian translations. Apart from that, I hope you guys actually give this game a shot. It's genuinely super enjoyable. I've been having a blast, and usually I pick up and drop MMOs after a week or so. Now I'm still deep into Lost Ark and can't wait to jump back into the game. Anyway, this is gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do click the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you actually enjoy Lost Ark, if you plan on playing it, or if you think it's doo-doo. Let me know. This is all, and I will see you again in the next video.